Have you ever answered a simple question with a 5-minute explanation nobody asked for? Someone says, hey, you're running late, and instead of, sorry, traffic, you launch into the full saga. The alarm, the dog, the email that came in at the worst possible moment, the light that turned red twice. You watch their eyes glaze over. You know you're doing it, and somehow you can't stop. We tend to assume over-explaining is just a communication quirk. Maybe you're a talker, maybe you like details, but the psychological reality is a lot more tender than that. Over-explaining is rarely about information, it's about safety. And once you see that, you start noticing it everywhere, in coworkers, in friends, probably in yourself. Let's start with what's actually happening in your brain when you feel the urge to justify something simple. Psychologists who study anxiety and people-pleasing point to something called anticipatory threat detection, your mind running a simulation of how someone might judge you before they've even had the chance to. So you preempt it. You explain, not because the other person needs the context, but because some part of you is trying to control how you'll be perceived before disapproval even has a chance to land. It's less, let me inform you, and more, please don't think badly of me. Think about a kid who grew up in a house where mistakes were met with interrogation. Not violence necessarily, just a parent who needed to know why, who treated every broken plate or missed curfew like a case that needed solving. That kid learns, early and quietly, that a bare apology isn't enough. Explanations become currency. If you can just make the reasoning airtight enough, maybe you won't get in trouble. Maybe you'll be forgiven before you're even accused. Fast forward 20 years, and that same kid is an adult sending a 3-paragraph text to a friend explaining why they can't make brunch, when "I can't make it, sorry" would have done just fine. Here's where it gets interesting though, because over-explaining isn't just a leftover habit from childhood. It's also a live, ongoing negotiation with your own self-worth. There's a concept in psychology called rejection sensitivity, and people high in it don't just dislike rejection, they detect it faster and feel it harder than most people do. Their nervous system treats a raised eyebrow or a slow reply the way other people's nervous systems treat an actual insult. So when you find yourself over-explaining, what you might actually be doing is trying to manage someone else's emotional reaction in advance, because you've learned, maybe the hard way, that other people's disappointment feels unbearable to sit with. And isn't that such a human thing to do? To take something as simple as, I'm going to be a few minutes late, and turn it into a legal defense, because some old part of you still believes that if you just explain hard enough, you can control how loved you are. There's also a quieter, less talked about version of this, over-explaining as a stand-in for being truly seen. Some people didn't grow up in strict households at all. They grew up in ones where nobody was really listening, where you had to fight for airtime, elaborate just to be noticed, add detail after detail because a short sentence would get talked over or ignored entirely. In that world, over-explaining isn't about avoiding punishment. It's about making sure you exist in the room. It's a bid for connection dressed up as information. Here's an interesting historical parallel. In the courtroom, lawyers are trained on something called the story model of persuasion. This idea that jurors don't just weigh facts, they build a narrative, and the more coherent and detailed that narrative feels, the more they trust it. Over-explainers are, in a strange way, running their own internal courtroom 24/7, presenting evidence to a judge who may not even be real. The exhausting part is that the verdict never actually gets delivered, because the judge is inside your own head, and you can't cross-examine a feeling. So if you're someone who over-explains, and honestly most of us do it somewhere with someone, I don't want you to hear this as a diagnosis of something broken in you. I want you to hear it as evidence of something else entirely, that you're someone who cares deeply about being understood, about not causing harm, about making sure the people around you have the full picture. That instinct isn't a flaw, it's just been running on high alert for longer than it needed to. The shift isn't about becoming cold or clipped or suddenly indifferent to how you come across. It's much smaller than that. It's noticing the moment right before you start explaining and asking yourself, quietly, kindly, do they actually need this? Or do I just need to feel safe right now? Sometimes the answer is both, and that's okay too. Awareness doesn't mean you fix it overnight. It just means the next time you catch yourself 3 sentences into justifying why you were 5 minutes late, you can smile a little, take a breath, and let the sentence end where it should have ended in the first place. If any part of this felt uncomfortably familiar, you're not alone in it. And honestly, that discomfort is usually where the most useful self-understanding starts. If you want more of these deep dives into the quiet psychological patterns running your everyday life, stick around because we're just getting started.